All right, welcome everyone. I'm Keith Mathis, and so today you've signed in to our webinar on using a BA or a business analyst in project management. One of the things that has happened in the last 4 or 5 years that many of you that have signed in have probably noticed as well is the enormous amount of growth in the area of business analysts. Many organizations who did not have one 5 years ago has one today. The thing that has created a little bit of a challenge here has been that some of the people with the that are BAs as they come in, it has caused a little bit of a challenge between the BA and the project manager, because the BA's responsibility lies in the customer and gathering requirements, where the project manager's responsibility runs in running the project. We have especially seen this happen when project managers have been used to doing the BA role as part of project management, and it happens all the time. So it's not anything wrong with that, but the BA can be a blessing to your project and a blessing to the project manager if you have that role. So let's walk through some of the things in the next hour as we talk about this. So the big conflict that we have seen between the PM and the BA is that the PM might not be sure what their role should be when the BA works with the team. Understand the viewpoint of the two. The project manager's viewpoint is running the project, giving feedback to the team, and escalating things upward if needed on the project. The BA's role is really to the customer. If you're looking at a pure BA role, their emphasis is to connect with the customer, to be able to share information from the customer to the team and from the team back to the customer. The BA can be a wonderful person and tool to be able to use in your projects. The PM is no longer needed for communication, and that's the thought a lot of times. However, the PM, though, does give communication to everyone else, including the BA. But the PM might be limited on how much communication they give to the customer, because the customer is talking more to the BA. And so that becomes a little bit of an issue. The PM no longer needs to verify change orders or questions on the project, and this is handled by the BA. So this is a little bit of a shift where the project manager is used to talking to the customer about the change orders and being able to hear directly from them. Now, as we talk about this, this is in its purest sense. You understand, just like I do, that in the real world, the BA might still use the project manager and have the project manager in a team with the customer if needed. The customer might still request a meeting with the project manager in addition to the BA if they choose to. But in the purest sense, the BA is supposed to reflect the eyes and the ears and function from the customer's standpoint. Now, there's two main resources that's out, and most of you are familiar with these, especially if you're certified as a business analyst. You have your business analysis for practitioners that is on the right side, put out by PMI, and then you have BABOK, which is put out by the Business Analysis Association. A lot of times people say, which one do you like the best? There's strengths and weaknesses in both of these books. I own them both, and they are both excellent materials. You can't really go wrong with either one of these if you're buying a copy of one of these. Just make sure you buy the newest version every time when you go out to use. But you can't go wrong with either one of these. Now, the business analysis plan. A comprehensive plan for completing all of the business analysis components. You're determining who to interview as well as the details to make sure all requirements have been gathered from the proper stakeholders. So if you're using a BA, let's put the project management hat on for a moment. So I'm a project manager, you're a project manager, and now what's happening is we have a BA. So how do I use that BA if I've never used one before? Understand that the plan that we're putting together here is really a plan where this person's going to be involved in the interviewing of the stakeholders for gathering requirements. So the project's been funded, the project charter maybe has even been created, but now you're getting ready to interview the stakeholders and make sure you understand all the requirements. So this is going to be part of that interview, and this is where the BA saves the project manager and the project team a lot of time. The business analysis is a set of activities performed to identify business needs. It's recommend relevant solutions that elicit document and management requirements. Now, depending on the culture of your organization, the range of duties that the business analyst does is going to be very wide or very narrow. Let me give you an example of what I mean. The new range of duties of a business analyst today is more than just interviewing the customer. The business analyst, a lot of times, is that person who's doing the analysis of the project up front. For an example, if we were working with, in the PMI world, the project manager is not appointed until the charter. But who is it that's involved with the sponsor working on the charter? It's normally the business analyst. And the business analyst could even be brought in earlier than that to work on the business case in that organization. So the business analyst a lot of times is that person who is actually doing a lot of the analysis behind the scenes. And that role is going to carry over even when they're working with the actual project team. They will do the analysis on some solutions. They will do the analysis on documents, making sure certain documents have been documented and turned in for that's going to benefit the customer. But the main thing I would say is just remember that your business analyst is looking through the eyes of the customer. The BA involves understanding organizational culture, strategic plans, desired outcomes, clear understanding of what goals or objective the project will impact. It details the internal interaction of the stakeholders, which can influence people and influence processes and people and processes. It uses tools to verify solutions for the project. So the business analyst is not just somebody sitting in a team meeting representing the customer by saying, here's what the customer wants. They are coming back to the team with solutions, with possibilities of how to solve some of the problems because they're doing the analysis from the viewpoint of the customer. So how does the BA interact? All right, so let's look over here on the side of operations. You have internal processes, you have your strategic plan that all of our projects should be connected to, and then we've got our daily activities of everything that we're going to be working on that's going to fulfill that. And then you have the project over here to the right, and this is where you're working with your team, you're interviewing the SMEs, and remember SME is a subject matter expert, and then you're creating the requirements. So that BA is actually working in between all of those. So on the left-hand side, the operations side, you've got problems, goals, needs, and that's what's driving the project. It could be a problem, a break fix kind of thing, so you have a project. It could be a goal, such as a strategic plan that's driving the project, or it could be a need. You see you're having to make some adjustments in order to be competitive as an organization in the future. And on the right-hand side, the project is going to create solutions and products. And by product, I'm talking about the finished project is going to be the product that's going to solve that problem, reach that goal, or provide that need that's there. So where's the BA in all of this? Well, your BA is right here in the center because your BA is grabbing the side of the operations people or your customer side, and they're grabbing the side of the project side, and they're helping blend them together. So it's a very powerful role and a very needed role, especially for some of the larger projects. So why are the BAs needed? Well, you have project teams and customers that speak different language. And we see this with technology folks. Now, the technology people today are far greater than they were years ago in being able to communicate to a customer. But you'll still see this happen with technology. You'll still see it happen in construction. You'll still see it happen where people are using their own lingo. And so both parties have to understand their counterparts' lingo. And that's the reason why it's so important that we have to almost become lingo free when we're trying to interview that customer. Communication is needed so that all parties understand and benefit from the interaction. And the BA represents the customer to the project team. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't see both sides of it. They do. And a good BA, when doing the analysis, is going to see both sides of the situation, what the team is proposing, what the customer wants. They should see both sides. As we look at this triangle, I think this represents a lot of things about the BA and the BA role. And so you'll notice the BA is there in the center. You'll notice that you have needs discovery. They're researching. That's part of that analysis we're talking about. They're going to have some technology management where they're managing technology, and some of that technology is going to involve communication software back to their customer and things like this. And then relationship management is huge for the BA because that BA is trying to facilitate all these different types of components with all the various people. So it's going to be huge in being able to be a people person, somebody who can get along with people, somebody who can facilitate, somebody who can run the meeting, and somebody who's not offensive when they're making a counter proposal. Some people are great in a lot of ways, but they're not good as a BA because a BA has to be able to make a counter proposal without it escalating a situation. And so it's very important there. So what's the outlook then of the business analyst? Well, you've got the facilitator. Sometimes that you'll see people who will want to be the Lone Ranger. That normally does not work very well as a BA because you do have to be such a people person. Some people look at it as an order taker, like, and if you've attended training, you've heard me say this, like you're going to McDonald's and you're ordering I want pickles less and tomato. That's not a good BA. If we go to our customer and we're just an order taker, we're going to miss something. And that's the reason why we have to do a better job being able to interview that customer and get down into the depth and the root of what that customer wants. A researcher, it is part of a researcher, and a partner. That BA is a partner with that project manager, not a competition, but a partner, not a competition, but a partner. And so it's very important for them to be part of all these. So as you're looking at the focus of a business analyst, a lot of times as a project manager, we're down here at the bottom looking at the project. We're looking at the goal of the project, how to get it done, those type of things. As we're looking at the role of a business analyst is looking at a lot of different things because they understand how this project fits into the strategic plan. They understand also how it fits into the portfolio, which is going to be the funding units of the project and the programs. And they're of course going to understand how it's going to fit into the project. So the business analyst has to understand how to align all of these components in order to make it work, because each of these are going to make a difference, and it should be aligned all the way through. The strategic plan and the portfolio should be underneath that umbrella. The program should be underneath the portfolio umbrella, and the project should be underneath the program level. Now, all of these are going to be called strategic alignment. And so that project, you ought to be able to trace back to the strategic plan how that project and what that project is driving for the strategic plan or strategic goal of the organization. Now, it doesn't always work that way. I'm sure it does at your organization, but many organizations, it doesn't work that way. But we should be able to look at that project and know what strategic goal or objective it's driving. You'll also see a different level of people who are supervising these sections. Normally at the higher level of the strategic plan, you're going to see the president, you're going to see the CEO at that level. At the portfolio level, you're going to see the vice president or a director at that level, because remember, that's a funding unit and a funding level. And so they're putting money into different portfolios to drive the business objectives. And then at the program level, we will normally see a PMO, a sponsor, at that level. And then of course, at the project level, you're going to have a PM who's running the project, and you could have a BA, a business analyst, and then your team is all working together to drive that project forward. And then, so what is the big picture? And that's the piece that the business analyst always knows. What's the big picture here? Now, they know the details as well, but what is the big picture? Sometimes as a project manager, we're so far down in the weeds, we forget how it connects all the way up to the strategic plan. All right, so let's start off with creating a business analysis plan. This would be very important to a BA. Here's the process of some of the components that we would put in there: defining the business analysis approach, creating a stakeholder interview register. This is a group of people that we're going to interview to gather more details about the project. Plan business analysis processes. What processes are we going to need to use? Create the business analysis communication plan. Now, you're going to have the project manager on there, but you could have multiple customers on there that you're interviewing with. Determine the process for requirements control. So once we understand the requirements, how are we going to control that? That might involve your change orders that you're used to using, or if you're using Agile or Scrum, then your process for requirements control would be a little bit different. You're just trying to control it for that iteration or that sprint rather than for the project as a whole. And then the manage component. This is the business analysis performance. How are we performing against what we thought we were going to perform against? Okay, so with the business analysis plan, it's created to document how the business analysis processes will be performed, including the plan decisions agreed to by the project team. It can be constructed formally or be reviewed and approved by the project team, or the document can be more informal, simply serving as a record of team decisions. But the purpose behind a BA plan is that you understand what you're going to be doing. Here are the people we're interviewing because these are the subject matter experts that's going to tell us from the customer side what they need, and then who you need to talk to be able to get all that information to the right people on the business side or the project side. It should determine the following: the process the team will use in gathering the requirements, stakeholders, musts, shoulds, and coulds to be interviewed, process that will be used to control the scope of the project, metrics that will be used to measure progress and performance in the project, and then stakeholders will have authority to approve or make changes. Now you'll notice as we look here, when it talks about metrics, we're not inheriting the metrics from the organization, even though you will have some of those that come naturally. You will probably calculate the CPI, SPI, some of those things, but on certain projects, your metrics might be different. On a software development project, you're going to have a lot of testing metrics that a construction project's not going to have. So these metrics are going to be huge as you do this. And so your customer might be requesting some of those metrics. The requirements interview. This is an important interview. It should be taking place right after the project has been assigned to a project manager and to a business analyst. And so which stakeholders best understand the needs of your project? Now, a lot of times when we talk about this, people will think, well, I'm going to interview the manager on the customer side. There's a lot of problems with that. Your manager might have the authority, but they might not have the expertise. Good people, but you might be interviewing them only to realize that they don't have the expertise you need. Which stakeholders will be harder to interview due to distance or scheduling? And so you're looking at trying to get those folks in the loop so that you can do a video conference with them and interview them. Which stakeholders will be supportive and champion the project? They're going to support this thing and help drive it. That's going to be awesome. Or which stakeholders could be neutral or resistant to the project? And so they're dragging their feet. They don't like it because it's going to create some type of change for them. All right, so with this kind of drives us into this, as we're talking about stakeholders, RACI. And so with RACI, you're looking at responsible, accountable, consult, and inform. And so that's what RACI stands for. So when we talk about responsible, this is going to be a performer of the work, a team member. The accountable person, it would be like your project manager. The consult would be like SMEs, subject matter experts, input from others who are going to be beneficial to this. And then inform would be stakeholders and decision makers who you're letting them know what's going on with the project and what kind of decisions have been made. But a RACI allows you an opportunity in a matrix form to be able to set up so people are not tripping over each other. And where you'll find people trip over each other is when people go from project to project to project. Now, many of you, I looked at the list this morning before we got on, and so many of you I know personally, I've seen you in training, and I also know many of you are carrying somewhere between 3 to 12 projects in some cases. That's where the RACI fits, is for you guys who've got all these multiple projects. Because when you've got multiple projects, you're wearing different hats when you go from one project to the next project. And so there's a tendency for us to walk into the next project and kind of carry that same hat into that. So the RACI helps us be able to separate that. The other piece that the BAs are doing is working with the subject matter experts. Wonderful people, but these people are stretched very thin. No organization has just extra subject matter experts. So to get a face-to-face with these people and to be able to sit down with them to interview them is absolutely a privilege in most cases. So you, on your side, as a BA, you have to be ready when you talk with them, because this is not an easy person to schedule. This is not an easy person to get back to. So you're having to make sure that when you've got them, you're asking them everything in the world that you want to know, because the odds are they're so tight and there's so few of them, they're going to be someplace else at another time. So be prepared when you ask for their expertise. Pre-write some of your main questions down before the meeting. A lot of times we think that we're going to think of them off the top of our head, but that's not really true. We will miss it. Think about last time you went to the grocery store and you were going to get sugar and you picked everything up but the sugar. That's just part of human nature. So write the question down, respect their time, get to the point, speak so everyone can understand. That means getting rid of the lingo so that they understand what you're talking about, you understand what they're talking about, and document their direction or their requirements or anything that they're giving you that's going to be insight into this project being able to perform better. So the SMEs need to be elevated in our mind a little bit in making sure that we have our act together, that when we sit down with these folks, don't do it on a wing and a prayer thinking that everything's going to be fine. All right, so after you've established the SME, after you've worked with the SMEs and you have an understanding from those interviews, you're now ready to start establishing those requirements. Now, the BA process will look something like this. You create an elicitation plan. That's going to be that interview plan. You perform the elicitation interviews. Elicitation is what's called is the process of doing the interviews with the subject matter experts and the stakeholders. You're going to then document the elicitation discoveries. That's going to be what you've understood from the SMEs and the customer. And then you're going to confirm the elicitation findings so that to make sure that you didn't misunderstand what the SME said or what the customer said. So you're going to bounce that back and just have them give you a verbal if it's informal, or give them a sign off if it's formal, that these are the requirements. So the requirements at elicitation, the activity of drawing out information from stakeholders, other sources for the purpose of further understanding the needs of the business to address a problem or opportunity in the stakeholders' preferences and conditions for the solution that will address those needs. I know you'll notice that this is a one long sentence. And so this happens in all your PMI documents. They have huge monster long sentences. But the point of this is a good point. You're drawing that information out. They might not think of asking you about something or telling you something because they don't think it's important. On your side, something could be very important because everything's so interconnected. With requirements elicitation, it's the job of the business analyst to assist the stakeholder in defining the real problem or situation and to determine best approach to resolve the problem or to create opportunities associated with the changes. Now, did you catch the lingo in that first bullet point? It's the business analyst's job to be a problem solver on this project. So in other words, when they come across a problem, when the team comes across a problem, the business analyst is one of the researchers who's trying to come up with a solution. Not just the person who's taking the order from the customer and making sure that you're complying with that. They are someone who's looking for a solution that's going to reach the benefits of what the customer wants and making that recommendation back to the team. Elicitation allows the business analyst also to work with the SME, the stakeholders, to get these unknown needs, problems, and as quickly as possible. So that's the reason why this BA is a powerful, powerful person in that team. Now, with elicitation, it's more than collecting and gathering requirements. The team collecting or gathering requirements implies stakeholders already have requirements ready to be collected or gathered. Requirements are not ready and waiting in the stakeholder's mind or in documents within the business community. All stakeholders may have actual requirements. They do often have wants, needs. However, they may not be able to express them. Now, we've all seen this happen where you're interviewing a customer and we're talking good people. They're not trying to hide anything from you or hold anything back, but they can't even formulate what the requirement is. They want something to run better. They want the performance to be better. They'll tell you something's not working. The negatives they can tell you a lot of times better than the positives of what they really want. I don't want this, this, and this, because especially when they're trying to fix a problem. So it's our job on the BA role to make sure we've interviewed that customer in a thorough fashion to make sure that we've gotten from them what it is that they really want. Now, many stakeholders do not understand the complete problem or the solutions possible in their situation. In addition, some stakeholders might have a bias toward a certain solution and a blindness toward the problem. Now, where you guys see this in real world is especially when you're working together with the requirements from a customer and they've already been influenced by a product or a service or a salesperson. And so what happens is they start telling you the requirements, but those requirements can only be met by this one particular service or product that they have been sold on. But the problem is that that product or service does not work with the rest of the enterprise system. And so what you're looking at from a technology standpoint is, okay, I understand what you want, but this isn't the solution. But they've been sold on that solution. And of course, the salesperson says that, you know, nobody's ever had any problems with it. And they say that all the time in trying to sell something. So what you're really wanting to do is not for the customer to give you the solution. You're wanting the customer to give you the characteristics of the problem or the characteristics of the goals and objectives. And the business analyst comes back with the solution working with the team. But sometimes that's not the case in some cases. All right, so let's look at an elicitation plan and kind of show you an example here, just a few bits here so that you see what I'm talking about. All right, so over on the left-hand side on your screen, it's going to be what information you're needing. The source, that could be your SMEs. What method are you going to use to interview them? And what sequence are you going to interview these people? And so sequence might not make a difference. You might have equal access to everybody. You're just trying to work it out when there's a free appointment. But I wanted to show as much of it as I possibly could. Okay, so on the left, what information? You're looking at certain questions you would ask. Now I've only got one question here per thing, but the truth is you could have 20 questions that you're going to ask HR. You could have 30 questions that you're going to ask facilities executive VP. So I've just given you a question so that you can see the grid, but don't look at that as I've just got one question. You could have 30 questions or 50 questions you're asking someone, as you know. So anyway, you're asking the question to the source, and what's your best method to communicate with them? Is it face-to-face? Is it going to be a meetings, a surveys, phone conference? And then what sequence? Because the reason why a sequence is there for a BA is sometimes by interviewing certain people first, it will give you more information and better information in asking questions of other people. So it might make a difference. Many of your projects, it won't make any difference. You're finding the information out. No, it's not going to make any difference who you talk to first. But in some cases, you really will want to talk to certain people first, because when you talk to this other person at the end, that's going to be the last piece of that package. So if it's going to make a difference who you interview first, put it in a sequence. The other thing is, when we talk, one of the things that a BA will do is a feasibility study. Now your feasibility study, I know I've got it right here kind of in the middle, but your feasibility study is actually more connected with your business case. And the reason why I want to make this point is that your BAs are being brought in more and more to help do the research on the business case and on the charter. So on the business case, you're looking at the feasibility study, and your feasibility study a lot of times is part of the business case and your make or buy analysis. So you're trying to determine, can we do it in-house, or do we want to vendor this out? And that might be the focus of the feasibility study, or it could be that we're just looking for what possible solutions are out here on this type of problem. So in the feasibility study, you're looking at defining the business drivers, planning the feasibility research, determining the current state of where we are now, identifying possible solutions. And with that possible solutions, it could be vendors that provide that you didn't even know about until after you do the feasibility study. Then you're analyzing the priority solutions, and then you're creating a feasibility report. And so this would normally either be part of the business case or an input into the business case. So we're talking way up at the front before the charter, because you've got your business case, then you've got your charter, and then after your charter, then you'll have your plans that you have created as a project manager alongside the BA. So, but this could be happening way up there in the very beginning of everything. And so all of these kind of feed into each other as you're working with this. Okay, so now you're trying to uncover and analyze the needs, not just the wants, but what are the real needs here? So let's compare a need to a requirement. So you're looking at the needs and things that someone wants but doesn't have. A lot of times that's going to be a need. A person or an organization with business needs may decide that having a specific need unmet is unacceptable, and she'll look for a solution to fill it. And this is where the salespeople a lot of times gets connected. Now, what you're looking for is the real requirements of that project. And so requirements going to be a capability that a solution must provide, a condition that it must meet. Requirements are different than specifications. Specifications will define how it will be satisfied. And now the thing is, as I'm splitting a hair here, but most of the time you'll see specifications and requirements a lot of times even go together depending on the organization and the culture of it. So you're looking for requirements is what you're looking for. Also, discovering a company's specific business needs, you'll get this from analyzing a lot of things about that company. For an example, analyzing the company's mission, scrutinizing their market, looking toward the company's future. What are they going to do in the future? Identifying obstacles that they see and you might see as an outside of that organization or outside of that group. Breaking down the obstacles, and then asking performance-related questions. Everybody wants things to be cheaper, faster, perform better. My question would almost always be, how are you measuring that? Because that customer is measuring it in some fashion, and you're going to need to be measuring it as well. Okay, so now you're ready to define the requirements. So the requirements analysis task would include this: determine the most important requirements. Why? Because in many projects, you'll have a pot of requirements, and there's certain things that absolutely this has to have. and there's certain things that would be nice to have. And we've got to know the difference, because in most projects, we run out of money. We can run out of money before we get all the nice things that somebody wants, but we want to make sure we've gotten those key important things that they have to have. And so prioritizing those requirements, you do that if you're running Scrum or any of the Agile methodologies, you do it automatically. But in Waterfall, we don't do it as much. We just kind of pull it together. But this would be a great activity to go ahead and go through, is what's your ranking order of the most important. You set up categories for requirements. You construct a model for the requirements, identify assumptions and constraints associated with this. You also can verify your understanding of the requirements. You validate the requirements. So all of these components are there, but you can see the benefit of being able or being willing to then turn around and rank those requirements. So the requirements analysis process, looking at it in a flowchart form, you determine the requirements, set up the requirements, construct a model, identify assumptions and constraints, verify requirements, and then validate the requirements. This is identical to what you saw in the previous slide. This is just in a flowchart form. Okay, so creating the business case. So let's go to the very beginning and assume the BA does have the role of helping create or doing the analysis of the business case. Now remember, the responsibility of this would probably be the project sponsor, because they're going to represent management. But the analysis would be the business analyst. Now you might be in an organization where the project manager does the business case. That's fine. That's how your organization does it. But in general, the business case is done by somebody higher than the project manager, and then the project manager might be brought in to help with the charter, because they're appointed a lot of times in the charter. So let's assume there is no project manager. The BA is brought in to do the business case. So just to refresh your memory, the business case is a document that discusses the return on investment, the benefits or opportunities a project can bring to an organization. It's not a detailed project management plan, but a high-level plan that shows initial estimates, investments, potential opportunity, and benefits. The reason why you're doing a business case is you're determining whether or not it's going to be worth investing this money into this project. So what you're looking at is that you're looking to see, if we invest $1 million, what's our payback? What's the benefit? Now you might say, well, wait a second, we don't do business cases like that because we're government or we're a nonprofit. Your business case would be based on benefits, but it might not be financial benefits. It might be based on the services, the number of people you can serve after this project is finished compared to what you can serve right now. So you do have benefits you're looking at, but it might not be as much cut and dry financial and investment type information that we're looking at here. It's the business analyst's responsibility to create the business case, to conduct all the analysis, verifying the return on investment, the benefits, the opportunities associated with the project. So if a business analyst did not do due diligence in doing this type of thing, what would happen is they could say, this is a high priority project, and we're going to get our money back in 10 months, only to have the organization commit resources to that project and then realize after they've gotten into it that we're not getting our money back anywhere close to 10 months. It might take 24 months. So that's why the business analyst is used in something like this, to do that type of research. All right, so let's maintain and enforce the scope. That's what you're going for with all these requirements, is trying to understand the scope of the project. So when we talk about scope of the project, it's understanding what is and isn't relevant to the project. It's also about working with your stakeholders to set clear limits and project boundaries and make sure you all remain on the same page about them. If we don't stay on the same page, we know that is scope creep. And we've all been on those projects to where the scope keeps growing like you're eating liver, haven't we? I mean, my gracious, every time you turn around, the scope's growing. And it's one of those projects where you're thinking, just poke me in the eye. I can't believe this. Well, the reason why those things happen is many times we have not been able to nail down that scope. And so we need to nail it down. Our BA needs to nail it down. Our team needs to nail it down. So we all need to be on the same page. That's what it's saying here. All right, then next, we ensure the scope aligns with the business drivers. The business driver is an entity which has a major impact on the performance of a specific business. The business drivers will reflect the performance and progress of your business. It's going to be measurable. It can be compared to a standard such as a budget, last year's figures, industry average. It can be acted upon. So the big thing I want to make the emphasis is anytime you're looking at trying to measure something in that project, what you're looking at is, okay, how can we measure it? Someone says, well, our company doesn't measure those things. They probably don't right now, certain things, but they do measure something. Almost every company is going to measure the project cost. They're going to measure the duration of that project. They're going to measure those kind of things. That's normal in a project. But those might not help you at all in running the project day to day, other than it's the two pieces that management's asking about. You might have other metrics that are very, very important in helping you monitor the performance of your project. The other thing the BA has to do is choose the right analysis. Now, there's a ton of analysis that are out. And one of the things that I've toyed with for years is creating an analysis class. And I'm still toying with it. And I just don't know. I don't know exactly how I'd want to teach it. But my goal would be, if I had a perfect magic wand, it would be to have a 2-day analysis course, and we would do the analysis on a case in class. But everyone would walk away with a template for each of those analysis. And so that's been my thought for the last couple of years, and there's been other things I've had to write. But an analysis class that would allow us to walk away with a template on how to do a root cause analysis, how to do whatever type of analysis we think we need to do, a Pareto analysis. And so but the point is that since you don't have that, we've got to go back and find many of those tools. So choose the right analysis. So what analysis means to the business analyst is the purpose of that analysis is to create an abstract representation of the business area under discussion. A representation should be valid regardless of the technology used. So you're trying to look at an analysis that doesn't automatically bias you to use a certain technology or come to a certain conclusion. So it's going to be very important for you to really monitor and what kind of analysis do we have. In waterfall approaches to software development, analysis will occur early part of the project. With Agile or Scrum, which is an Agile type of format, or other iterative type of approaches, it may occur throughout the life cycle. And most of the time it does, because you're doing analysis in each section, each iteration, or each section of iterations. And so what happens is that analysis is kind of evolving as you go through, where in waterfall, you try to know everything up front before you finalize the plan. And the BA is the primary role responsible for that analysis. And this emphasis on analysis is huge, because most of the time, if a BA is struggling, it's because of this. They don't know how to do an analysis. They don't know what analysis. So I want to recommend a book for you. It's an older book, and it says the Quality Tool Book, okay? It's called the Quality Tool Book, Quality Toolbox is what it's called. And it's written by Nancy Tague, T-A-G-U-E. Now, this isn't going to be perfect for projects, because this focuses mainly on quality. But here's the thing about this text. She goes through I think it's 20 different tools, and it's for analysis. Now, she's analyzing just the quality of the projects, okay? Where you're wanting to analyze anything you choose. But when you see a fishbone in here, and she goes through how to use a fishbone, the cool thing about that is you're going to use a fishbone in a lot of different things, not just on quality. And so in this case, this is by Nancy Tague, T-A-G-U-E, the Quality Toolbox. This is one of the tools that I've picked up that I like, and that I would like to be able to teach something like this with us in one of our courses. Okay, communication is the key. We have to be able to communicate to where people understand us, and communication is the key to reducing misunderstanding. So if I question that somebody's misunderstanding something, I want to make sure that I talk about it. Sorry about that. All right, so here's the BA's role in communication. Everybody should be communicating. We know that. And so if I'm in doubt, I clear it up in an email. If I'm in doubt, I clear it up in a phone call. I know you do the same thing. So the role of the business analyst in communication takes on the following thing. For an example, the viewpoint of the customer, but also the viewpoint of the project team. That business analyst is seeing both sides, but they mainly represent the customer. You're going to have the viewpoint of an analyst and what you've researched, and here's the solution you think is best that meets the criteria. You're going to have to be a negotiator as well. And so those negotiation skills have to increase because you're negotiating with all sides. And notice the last one here, the forecaster, because you're forecasting what's going to happen based on your research. That's why this analysis is so stinking important in everything that we do. So as an analyst, BA is an analyst, as the actual doing the analysis themselves, they will take on the role of an analyst by conducting all the various research and analysis needed to make sure that the proper solution has been chosen and to determine why other approaches are not feasible based on time, cost, or quality as specified in the requirement documents. Now, you and I do this type of analysis. If you were going out to buy a truck or going out to buy a new vehicle or going out to purchase something, we do that analysis on our personal products that we buy. And so, because we want to, especially if it's the more expensive it is, the more analysis we will do personally. The difference is you're doing that depth of analysis or even deeper on what the organization is choosing to do and what solution this project is looking at. The BA is also a negotiator. Your negotiation skills are huge and so are required for more than just price, time, and performance. You're negotiating ideas. You're negotiating people to come to something that's more realistic. In many cases, negotiation is used to get others to accept the viewpoint that something different might be a better solution in meeting the requirements specified. Remember, you did the research, but your customer might be set on why this product or service is going to fulfill their dreams because the salesperson sold them on this. So you might be negotiating why this other solution is technically better for them and it works in the system of the organization. And then as the forecaster, your analysis is forecasting how this project's going. If you're using the waterfall approach, you're doing that through EAC and ETC. Now you remember, EAC is estimate at completion, which is a forecast of what the final project will cost if performance and work continue the same. But ETC is estimate to complete. That's telling you how much more money you need to finish the project. But that forecasting, the analyst is doing that continuously to see how the project is performing in these areas. All right, so let's change hats for a moment. We've kind of focused a little more on waterfall. So let's focus the last few slides here on Agile or Scrum, which is an Agile type of methodology, okay? This changes the whole nature of what you're doing a little bit. And so when we talk about Agile or Scrum, we're talking about change-driven approaches. So this allows you to make changes and allows the customer to make last-minute changes, and it's really good for an evolving scope, okay? So the focus is on rapid delivery of business value in short iterations in return for acceptance of a higher degree of uncertainty regarding the overall delivery of the solution. It's preferred when taking on an exploratory situation. It's effective when used for incremental improvement of an existing solution. Now, those of you who are using Scrum or Agile or one of those type of running sprints and iterations, the goal of that and the reason behind that is usually because there's a lot of changes that's happening to the project or to the solution that you're trying to search. And so what happens is you need those iterations to be able to have the flexibility to make changes as you go all the way through without getting hit with a change order if you're working with a vendor or something like that. And so that's the reason why people will use these type of methodologies. The Agile development model, it focuses on delivering value by using multiple iterations to deliver functions and features to the customer. Now, the good thing about Agile or Scrum or any of these type of iterations or sprints is the customer's receiving, they're receiving and being able to use features and functionality in pieces along the way, rather than waiting 3 years and getting all the features and functionality at the end. So as a customer, if I've got 200 features that I need, at the end of each iteration, I pick up and I get to use some of those features and some of that functionality. And so we get 3 features at the end of the first month, and we get 6 features at the end of the second month, and so forth. And so I'm getting value earlier than waiting until the end of the 3 years. Also, risk-driven projects. Risk is contained through the use of short iterations and co-located teams. And of course, if we were working in a perfect world, in the Agile or Scrum world, we would be co-located working on one project, the top priority project. But that's not the way it seems to be in the real world right now. People are scattered all over the place. They're not working on one project. They're working on 3 to 12 projects. And so that just seems to be the way it is. But when we're looking at this, it's used when scope is difficult to define up front, has a high expectation of change. So those of you who are using Scrum and Agile, the reason why you're doing that is because you've got a lot of changes, a lot of potential change orders, and you might even be trying to hit a moving target. And so, but your business analysts will still work in Agile and Sprint type situations because they're still doing the analysis and they are still giving communication back and forth to the customer. So it's very important to be able to do that. Okay, so let's kind of pull these pieces together for you here. So where do you go from here? One of the things I would suggest is that, of course, you'll get a link on the video after it processes. So I would design a process that fits your culture and supports your customers for the BA. Educate yourself in the areas of whether or not you're weak in any of these areas, such as analysis, interviewing, documentation skills, because all of those are key components for that business analyst, because a lot of these pieces you're documenting where the team is not having to because you are. Order one of these copies if you don't already have one. It makes no difference which copy. Both of these are going to be good. Both of these you're not going to go wrong by owning, and both of these give you that foundation. But here's the warning I want to give you. Don't assume that you're going to do it just like by the book. These are standards that are there to give you guides, and some of these are not going to fit in every situation, and you'll have to adjust it a little bit. Most of this you're going to be able to apply. But because of the culture or the type of organization, you might have to adjust it a little bit. That's okay. The big thing is use as much of it as you can, but don't freak out because you're having to adjust it. Now, those of you who are looking for other training in this area, let me hit this, but don't go anywhere yet because I've got something free I'm wanting you to sign up for. We do a 2-day business analysis called the BABOK way. This course is only focused on BABOK, which is the business analysis body of knowledge. It's the one on the left here. It's the orange one. So if we do a course like this, we come in, we can do it on site or we can do it virtual, but every person needs to have a copy of the BABOK, and we teach just that one philosophy. And so the price of this is a little bit higher because you've got a $50 book for everyone that they have to have. We do the business analysis fundamentals where no one has to have a book. We bring material in or we ship the material to you, and we teach the same principles on business analysis in 2 days, but it's our material that we've written and that we've designed. And so we can do that on site. We can also do that virtually as well and teach those business analysis fundamentals. Now, let me talk a little bit about what's happening in the next 2 months, and then I've got something free that I want to talk to you about in signing up. July 31st, project communication, interaction with others. That's going to be our next webinar. The one in August is going to be improving project performance. Both those are free. Both those are 10 to 11, just like what you're signed up for right here. You can sign up for those on our main website at themathisgroup.com, just like you've been doing, okay? It's worth 1 PDU for each of those, and so you'll be able to do that. Now, let me talk to you about what we're testing here. We've done coaching for years, but we normally have done one-on-one coaching. And so we have now kicked off our group coaching. And so we're going to be running our first part of this, which is a 7-day mini course. And so you would spend 1 hour a day in this course for 7 days. It's going to be worth 7 PDUs for you. It's free. And so it's going to last from July 6th through July 14th are going to be the dates. And so it's called Running Successful Projects. So you'll have a discussion board. You're going to be creating a checklist every day for certain parts of the project. I'll show you here in just a second. You're going to interact with people from all over the world who are signing in. I think we already have over 50 people who are already signed up for this free course. And so we're going to be closing this down about a week out. So you only have a couple more weeks to be able to do this. Who should be in this course? If you're a project manager and you're a PMP or Agile and you need those hours, you can be in there. Project managers who need that additional development, this would be a good course. It's fast-paced, but you're going to spend about an hour a day for 7 days in this course. Here's what we're looking at in those 7 days. First day, it's going to be gathering requirements. You're going to have a discussion board. You'll have a video to watch, those type of things, but you'll be creating a checklist about gathering requirements at the end of the day. As a group, with it being group coaching, your group is going to give feedback to you about your checklist, just like you will of others. On day 2, it's going to be on planning. At the end of the day, you'll have discussion boards. You'll have also create a checklist on planning process. Third day, execution. End of the day, it's a discussion board and a checklist on execution. Fourth day, monitoring, controlling, and it's going to be a checklist on monitoring, controlling, plus discussion board, watch a video. And then the 5th day, it's going to be closing, and that's going to be a checklist and a video and a discussion board. So we're giving you 7 days to be able to complete all of those. You don't have to connect any particular time of the day. I'm going to do one phone call that I will advertise for those who are in there. That will be a question and answer period. That's going to be the only thing live. And if you don't attend that, that's okay. You'll get a video of it anyway. And so we'll video it, but we're going to do a Zoom call so that people can ask questions during that time and talk a little bit about running successful projects. But it's going to be free, and it's July 6th through 14th, about an hour and 10 minutes a day is all it's going to take. 7 days, 7 PDUs. And so it'll involve the training, the coaching, and the group discussion. So if you'd like to sign up for that, we've got a link on our site at themathisgroup.com, or you can go directly to projectcoachingexpert.com. That's the direct link that takes you right to the sign up for that. But anyway, we need you to sign up if you're going to be part of it. Like I said, I think there's 58 people already signed up for that course to be part of that. All right, so we've come to the end of our webinar today talking about the business analyst role. I hope you're having a good start to your summer, and I hope that you enjoyed today's presentation and it gave you a couple of ideas to think about. I'm going to process the video. You'll get a link later today as the video comes out, and so that if you need to view this or you need to show it to your people, that's fine. And those of you who are signed up, you'll get the 1 hour PDU. I'll send that will be sent out to you with a code a little bit later as well. So I've got the chat board open. Are there any questions that you might have that I can ask? We've still got a couple of minutes here and see if I can answer a couple of questions. We've got the chat board open for you, and so it's listed for everyone, so everyone will see it. Anybody have anything you'd like to ask? How many of you are already signed up for this free 7 days? Anybody on this call? Okay. Okay, good, good. So several of you are already signed up. Good. Well, one of the things that don't hesitate to do, if you've got other project managers that are struggling, get them in on this free 7 days. This will help these guys. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. It's so good to see a lot of the names here of people that I know and I've known for years. It's always good to have you in the class, even into the webinars. And so I hope this has been beneficial. I hope you guys have a wonderful 4th of July that's coming up. And so you guys have a great week. Okay. Bye now. Thank you guys.